Firstly, thank you, Kate, for your time tonight. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. We've got quite a lot of topics and agenda to cover. I don't know if we'll get through all of it in the hour, but we'll do our best. We'll do what we can. For you guys that are joining and anyone watching, please feel free to ask questions, contribute, message the group. You can have the video on or off, whatever's more comfortable for you. But this is primarily built for you guys, so if you have questions, fire away. If we haven't covered something in depth enough for you, please ask. Okay, so more communication, the better. So we'll kick off now. What this webinar is about, well, it's about a number of different things really, but we're trying to look at like high performance without self-destruction. And in particular, when we look at high performance athletes or even just high performance careers, a lot of the things that we see go wrong is burnout. We're going and doing too much and not enough focus on self-preservation, family, etc. So we want to cover as much of that kind of stuff as we possibly can. So I'm just getting more people joining all the time, but that's absolutely good. All right, so we want to frame the problems. Why high performers burn out more often? What is the difference between discipline and chronic overdrive? And why push harder? Why the saying just push harder doesn't always work or eventually stops working? So what we're looking for is overall sustainability. And it's not a weakness, right, to be sustainable. It's a strength. It's sometimes pulling back is strength in itself. So, Kate, obviously with your experience, why don't you run us through with what your experience is, your education, so people have a little bit of a knowledge about you.
Thanks, Chris. Well, first of all, welcome to everybody, and thank you for having me here tonight. I can never get too much of behavioural stuff, especially in relationship to fitness and health. And as Chris mentioned, this idea of overall well-being for people who are wanting to achieve at a really high level. And I think, you've nailed it, Chris, when you say that sustainability is the key. I mean, I've been really blessed to have worked with quite a few high performance people in fitness and in the equestrian field. And something that keeps coming up time and time again is this loss of why they got into the sport or why they got into whatever they're doing in the first place. And I think this is something that is really useful for us to remember when we're thinking, as Chris said, about this pushing through. When do we back off a little bit? We need to keep coming back to why we got into it in the first place. My background is in psychology. I specialise in applied behaviour analysis, which is most people's eyes glaze over when you talk about that. But more and more we're realising that talk therapy and clinical approach to psychology is not working for everybody, and we need to come back to something that I'm passionate about, which is why do we do what we do? Looking at behaviour, looking at results, measuring our achievement against our behaviours and making changes, as Chris talked about, so that we can have a sustainable lifestyle doing what we're doing. So did you want me to sort of talk about the burnout, Chris?
Yeah, I think kick off with some understanding burnout, physiology, psychologically, what happens to us in a burnout. What are the neurological things, physical things that you would sort of look at?
Behaviourally, burnout is usually linked to a more common phrase, which is overwhelm. And overwhelm is linked to a lack of clarity. And this sounds really simplistic, but the beauty of that is that we can then look for a solution. If we look at overwhelm as a confusion around priorities, everything seems important. And I've had discussions with clients who will talk forever about everything that must be done. And I've borrowed a phrase from the law of attraction, which is, don't argue for your limitations. Let go of that need to address everything. Priority is about a single thing, choosing one thing that is a priority. So when we're in overwhelm or when we're suffering from burnout, we are overextended, everything needs to be done, preferably yesterday.
Yep.
And the solution to that is getting clear on what is actually the priority.
And I think that's a really big thing in bodybuilding in particular, right? Because there's so many things you need to do. But I'm relating to bodybuilding, but it does apply to every aspect in life. Because in bodybuilding, you've got your lifestyle, you've got your work, you've got your kids potentially, you've got your social life, then you've got all the bodybuilding on top of it, the cardio, the food, the training, the posing, the organization of what you're going to do and how you're going to get there. And then it only gets more consuming because you get more cardio, you get less food, you get more mental fatigue. And so when we're in these kind of high stress states, the overwhelm is, really quite all consuming. And that's where a lot of people can fall off mentally, and it impacts their life in a really negative way. And we need to try and be able to understand that, things are challenging and there's a lot to get through and a lot of tasks and responsibilities. But when you start thinking about every single thing that you need to achieve, you cannot physically deal with that. You cannot mentally deal with that. So prioritize, like Kate's saying, prioritize what we need to do. Sometimes by the hour, next hour, I need to eat my food, I need to drink my water. What do I need to do in my next hour? And break it down extremely simply, given where you are in that journey of overwhelm.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, Chris, that you talked about the time frame, because just coming onto this call, I talked to you about chunking, and often, as you say, you've got this massive list of to-dos, and something that can be really useful is, can they be grouped together? Can they come under one title? Because even combining things, and then, as you said, strip it right back. What needs to be done right now? Then what's next? But what we're often doing is we're looking way too far ahead. And the end result is nothing gets done. And as I said before, everything suddenly is a priority.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be done. And I think this is a golden opportunity also to remind people that this is where your coach kicks in, right?
Oh, yeah.
And those of us, me putting my hand up, who've done this on their own, you suddenly realize the value in having somebody who's just removed enough, experienced enough as well, to be able to see where you are maybe missing out or confusing stuff, because you also talked about where you are as an individual, and I think this is absolute gold as well, because what works for one person or what is overwhelming for one person might be a walk in the park for somebody else.
Yep.
And we often need support to identify what our own threshold is before we burn out or before we experience overwhelm.
And I think, I've mentioned it in the things that we need to do every single day. One of the big things I think a lot of people struggle with is parenting and having our own goals and objectives that we want to achieve, overlapping. Do we give enough to our kids? What about guilt association, all that kind of stuff. So from a behavioral perspective, how do you help people navigate that?
Well, probably the thing that kicks off for me straight away is identifying people's core values, just without beating about the bush. Get clear on what your values are, what's important to you. With kids and with guilt and various sort of distractions in our world, one of the things that I always say to parents tackling that is look at it through the lens of what are my children gaining from me doing this, as opposed to what are they missing out on. Because they are always going to miss out on something. Doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're bodybuilding, whether you're a career person, whether you're a stay-at-home mum, something is missing for them. So what you want to do is go, what are they gaining from me doing this? And a massive one that we underestimate is modeling adults having a life, pursuing their dreams, role modeling that it is okay to be a mum or a dad and have a life as well. So frame it in the way of, what are my children gaining from me doing this? And also going back to that idea of what's really important for me, because also if you're not in a good space, you are not going to parent to the best of your abilities. You have to let go of some of that guilt. And interestingly, I was talking to a client today about our history, and those of us who are a bit older, of course, have got older parents, but what we saw role modeled for us was very different to what we're trying to show nowadays. I grew up watching mum and dad just working round the clock to provide for us, didn't pursue their activities, didn't pursue their dreams. Very different parenting. So frame it in a way that serves you, and it will also serve your kids, because if you're in a good space, they will be in a good space.
It's like the analogy, the oxygen mask in the airplane, right? You put your oxygen mask on yourself first so you can help everyone else around you. If you can't help yourself, you're no good to anyone else. So absolutely, it's not selfish to prioritize your health and your goals. In fact, it's actually really rewarding for your children, because they, like Kate said, they see you working towards something, and that you have to work hard at something. Hey, even if you lose, it's like, how do you respond to this? All of these are teachable moments for our children as well, and that's a huge thing for them to learn. I think I want to go into a little bit more around like the physical aspect of burnout and what we sort of see as well, like with the nervous system fatigue. So your central nervous system, which regulates and controls pretty much everything your body does, like your breathing, your subconscious movements, your blinking, but also some conscious movements as well, moving our bodies and keeping our bodies in what's called homeostasis. And if you haven't heard of homeostasis, homeostasis is like the operating system for your computer, like Windows. It's for your body. So it makes everything tick, okay? And if you aren't in homeostasis, you're dead. So homeostasis is super important, obviously. And when we stress our central nervous system with chronic fatigue, overwhelm, high stress, excess cardio, low food, etc., we stress our central nervous system, and which also stresses our ability to stay in homeostasis. And the issue with this is that you can only go for so long until things give out, right? So being able to step back sometimes is really, really important. In particular, related to get into bodybuilding, when we're in bodybuilding prep and we're pushing our bodies to the extreme, burning the candle from both ends, at some point you're going to have to say, a coach is going to have to say, hey mate, today or tomorrow, I want you to do nothing. I want you to go out and I want you to have a sleep or get a massage or just do something that is for you. Because we're at the point now where you are keeping your cortisol levels so high, your central nervous system is gone, fatigued out, and we need to make sure that we're able to recover that body just as much as we do with and prioritizing our training sessions as well. So I think, I've put it out to everyone before when I was talking, is that please ask questions, guys. Please contribute. You can text message in the message group here, which is a little messenger icon at the bottom. So please ask questions, raise issues that you guys are also struggling with, because like I said, this is built for you. So
I don't know how to do that. What did you say?
um,
How do I do a message?
so you can just talk if that's easier for you. But
I'm talking now, but I didn't want to talk, but here I am.
In the bottom right-hand corner, if you're on your laptop or desktop, I don't know about phone, there's a little icon, which is a message icon. I'm assuming it's going to be similar on the phone, but you might have to scroll down or scroll across. But what is your question, Amber?
I don't have a question. I just thought in case I had one. I was going to say something earlier, and I was like, oh, I don't like being on the screen in front of everyone, so I turned it off, but I'm back again.
You're back again. You got your confidence back.
Got my confidence back. When I seen Thelma, I was like, I'm going to say hi, Thelma, because she's wriggling around. And and then Anna come in as well. It's like, yeah, gang.
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
Oh, thank you for that. So the nervous system, okay, back to
myself off.
Yeah. What also is impacted by fatigue? Hormones. Hormones are disrupted. Sleep is disrupted. Your recovery slows down, and the high output just becomes unproductive and counterproductive to what your goals actually are. Another thing that is something that affects mostly females, it can affect males as well, but mostly females, is what's called REDS. And REDS is a deficiency that you can develop from being overworked for too long. And it's really bizarre because REDS, on paper, the people that get REDS, RED, it's an acronym for the issue, on paper, really, really fit and healthy. They eat really, really well. They train their ass off. They do the cardio. They focus on their hydration, etc. So they're kind of ticking all the boxes, but they are doing it to excess. And anything in excess is dangerous or counterproductive. Okay. And REDS, once it's got, it can be a long time to sort of come right. It affects hormones, it affects menstrual cycles, it affects reproductive systems, everything. So it's not a very good thing to have. No, REDS isn't an eating disorder. REDS is more like an energy deficiency, or neurological disorder as well, and hormonal disorder. It's kind of all of the above. It can, eating disorders can be contributed to getting REDS if you're not eating enough and not recovering enough. That can contribute to it, but no, it's not an eating disorder. So yeah, psychological burnout and is also physical burnout at the same time. Let's talk a little bit about post-comp blues and the loss of your identity. How does it? Oh, we've got a question as well. What refocusing strategies can I use to maintain training intensity when extreme dieting causes mental fatigue and reduces cognitive function? Fantastic question. Do you want to? I'll start. You can start with Kate. That one, Kate. I'll read it out for you again if you want. What refocusing strategies can I use to maintain training intensity when extreme dieting causes mental fatigue and reduces cognitive function?
Well, in any situation like that, I always say there are two ways of dealing with it. There's the emergency first aid, which is a strategy that you can use in the moment. But there's also that idea of zooming out and having, which going back to our sustainable idea of sustainability, is what am I missing big picture wise? For me, I encourage all my clients to have that overarching why they're doing whatever they're doing, because in the moment we know that tapping in to a really highly emotive reason as to why we're doing what we're doing can get us through those challenges. Yep. We can artificially do it. We can do it with reinforcement. We can play around with, I do a lot with music, people saying, can I use use a certain type of music in the moment that you only use for training. So if you've got your favorite artist, only allow yourself to play that when you're training. So there are lots of behavioral strategies that you can employ to push through in that moment. But I would always be zooming out and going, how can I make this sustainable so that I have got something to tap into? Because we know that every day we're going to be challenged to some point. And, you know, we might have a fantastic season or whatever, but there's always going to be those days when we just want to quit.
Yep.
And I've talked a lot about that, you know, waking up and just, what the f am I doing?
Why am I doing this to myself?
I'm out of here, you know. And you have to bring yourself back. Why am I doing this? And I mean, Amber and I have talked about this. You know, the reason that so few people are successful is because so few people are prepared to pay the price of being a high achieving athlete.
Absolutely.
And, you know, that's something that I shared in the group, you know, talking about the price you're willing to pay to get the result you want is an incredible way of tapping in to those reasons why you're doing what you're doing.
I think a big thing is also understanding how privileged we are. The fact that we can wake up in the morning and choose to suffer, choose to diet hard. That's a really massive privilege that many, many people don't have. Okay. So the fact that we're able to choose to suffer, choose to do something that's so extreme is a real massive honor and privilege that we should be really proud of, that we have the ability to do that. And again, like going back to Kate, what Kate said as well is your why. And I bang on about this all the time. Like me and Kate are both on the same page with this. We both have talked about doing what we call the 7 whys, or the 7 layers deep approach, where you write down your goal and then you investigate why this is your goal. And you, for an example, you might have a goal of I want to lose 10 kilos. And I say this all the time, that's a meh goal. It doesn't mean anything to anyone. Okay. What is your why? Why do you want to lose these 10 kilos? Well, because you feel uncomfortable wearing the clothes. Well, because you can't go out with your children and you feel embarrassed. You know, start digging deep in terms of your why and get really, really clear on your why, right? And get emotionally connected to it. Because when you're emotionally connected to your goal, it becomes bigger than your now. And you need to have your goal bigger than your now, because now is always going to disrupt you. Now is always taking you off track. Life stuff, relationship stuff, kids stuff, job stuff, right? It's always going to disrupt you. So you need to have your why and bigger than your now.
And you've kind of hit on something that we don't pay enough attention to, which is how our emotions affect our learning. And the more emotional we are, the state of that we are in, we are going to learn more effectively. We often don't learn the stuff that we want ourselves to learn. For example, you know, extreme fear. When people have a one-off experience of being exposed to something terrifying, they learn very quickly to be terrified of something forever. But once we know that, we can again tap into creating emotion artificially to connect it to something that is really, really important for us, because that will power us through the challenges. And
I used to be scared of carbs, by the way. Now I love my carbs, right? So I could overcome my fear of carbs.
Wow, love it.
And absolutely, Kushla, finding like your community of people can really help you stay present, and surrounding yourself with people that you admire and inspired by is a massive part, right? Surround yourself with people you want to be like. All right, post-comp blues, loss of identity. Let's get on to that. I'll hand it over to you, Kate.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites, because it is very typical that when you get the reinforcement, when you get the success, when you finish or achieve your goal, there is going to be a pause afterwards. there's going to be a natural gap before you feel energized or before you wanting to re-engage with something. I have suggested to people, again, tap into this idea of spreading that out. So if you've done well in a comp, keep that feeling alive. Go back through your photos, share on Facebook, talk to people about it, really soak it up. Because what often happens is we don't take enough from that moment, and then we're back into the old routine, or we're back into whatever happens after a comp or whatever you're doing, and we miss that opportunity to really celebrate. And that is where we fall into the post-comp blues. You'll see it. Some of you remember back being a kid, Christmas is done, you know, and after Christmas Day, you've opened all the presents, and it's...
Yeah, a kid was a long time ago, Kate.
Is that it? You know, it's all over. It's all over and done. And that is really, really common, and it's across the board. It's not just peculiar to athletes, but the problem with us as athletes is, you know, we often don't get enough opportunities to compete, so we can't keep topping it up, and we've got to try and fill that gap from one comp to the next. And tapping into celebrating it and drawing it out for longer is one way to do that.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I think refocusing is massive. You know, comp day blues is not just for comps, it's for everything, like you say, like Christmas, like something that you've been working towards for a long period of time, study, graduating, etc. The purpose in your life has gone. You worked so long, and it's been all consuming for months, years to reach this goal, and then it's done. And then you're like, well, my whole identity is no longer my identity. What do? You can feel very, very lost. And you do literally have a hormonal shift in your mind. So that dopamine hit that you got from the comp is now gone. The cortisol levels are coming back up. You've smashed your dopamine, so you're not going to get as much over the next few days either. So there's all those little hormonal things that are also geared towards those comp day blues, which normally present 1 or 2 days afterwards, normally about 2 days. So what we need to do is refocus our minds. What is the next thing we're looking to achieve? And again, break it down in bite-sized chunks. Maybe we're just focusing on the next 3 days. And that could be making sure I get my water in, making sure I eat well, like fuel my body whole food, right? Then the next 3 days might be getting into the gym at that point in time, or something else that you're sort of working towards, going for a walk, going out on a date with your partner, something that you've kind of sacrificed, but you can choose to now focus on these kind of relationships or situations that you've neglected over that time. Over time, you'll be able to start looking at your other focuses, like, for example, in bodybuilding, we get really weak in competing, you know, our energy crashes. So now we start to be able to build their energy levels back up with good food, good sleep, and our strength can increase in the gym. And that's motivating as well. So now we can have a shift of, instead of visual aspect and aesthetics, to being performance and recovery and strength focused, right? It's a completely different focus to bodybuilding, but it's still a really good focus to have. And it's only going to complement your journey for bodybuilding, because you need to put on weight, you need to get stronger, you need to recover that body. You can't live in a bodybuilding prep forever. You'll die. You know, it's not a healthy sport long term. Okay, that's why we do seasonal stuff for that.
And I think, Chris, going back to, you know, that idea of what are you focusing on in the now, I also think looking at it through the lens of phases. I'm now in a building phase, or I'm now in a, what's the expression, the refeed phase.
Reverse diet phase, yes.
Diet phase.
Yeah.
And it also is a reminder for us, and I need this reminder as well. It's about the process, and some of these corny expressions, you know, the journey is part of it as well. I can't stress that enough. If you're not going to enjoy the process or enjoy the journey, you are going to struggle big time with the high and low of achieving your goal and crashing.
Amber just said powerlifting is what she kind of has as an in-between competing. So it's still a focus for her and still able to push herself and things like that. Amber and I are quite different in terms of the way we approach things. So for me, you know, my goal was to compete in 2027. And that can seem like a really long goal to have, like really far away. For me, I feel like I have no time. Like every single day, I'm like, the day's getting shorter. It's already February, guys. How fast is this year going to go? We don't have time, as much time as we believe we have. For Amber, she really likes to break it down to smaller chunks to really keep her focus in that way. And you just got to find that sort of sweet ground that works for you. But I guess the compromise is when we have too much on our plate, that's again going back into the original sort of topic that we were talking about, is overwhelm and burnout, because we've put too much on our plate to try and fill it, trying to fill our cup externally. Then you're a long time dead though, people. Thanks, Amber. That's the sustainability, mate. Sustainability.
On that cheery note, yeah.
So I got another question. Can I use visualization or pre-performance routines or breathing to reduce performance anxiety before posing? Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Overall, I'm interested in what value you place on visualization during the prep. So, individual specific. I don't have much visualization because I am very flatlined in terms of my emotion. I prepare myself and I get up on stage and I just do tick the box. I believe, I'm boring. Yeah, I am. Right, that's cool. I don't
There's
say
always one. There's always.
Amber, it's not. Okay. So you probably want to talk to Amber around that kind of thing. Probably yourself, Kate. I think you probably do a lot more visualization than me. I like to just be more robotic.
The interesting thing about visualization is it can be explained again behaviorally by connecting it to how you behave at home, locking in something that you feel passionate about again, or that you can conjure up on stage. Now, the key I found in stage prep is to practice at home, create the environment at home. That could be part of your visualization, because then you can just simply see it all happening for yourself. One of the ones that I know people use is actually talking as though you have won, and visualizing yourself going up there, getting the trophy or whatever. It just depends what works for you, because sometimes people find that it's almost like positive thinking. You know, if I just sort of talk myself up into it, it's going to work. If you don't actually believe it in your core, it won't work for you. So find something that you can genuinely believe in. I play a lot of YouTube comps in the background. I will have my headset on, so I'm listening to the judges calling out them, and I'm rehearsing at home, so that you are creating that. It's like the reverse. You're creating it at home, and it just becomes part of the norm. You've got the crowd, you've got the noise, and that is really useful, because we often get caught up in practicing in front of mirrors with its stony silence and somebody telling you what to do, which is not how it is on comp day.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, whatever works for you, but visualization is that, you know, top athletes talk about it all the time, but from a behavioral perspective, it's linking your home routine to your performance routine. It's making some sort of connection so that it doesn't feel completely foreign when you get up on stage or when you get under stress. You can go into that zone. Oh, I'm just back in the lounge listening to my YouTube clips. This is fine. I've got this.
Yeah. I'm probably a little bit weird in that respect, where I literally just tick the boxes. I put it in my calendar. You know, it's very, very robotic in terms of my operation. That's probably autism coming through with that side of things, right? But like Kushla just made a really good comment in the messenger group and just saying, you know, love a good year long-term goal, i.e. the why, and then plan out the year and with chuck down goals and then quarterly goals, which helps keeps things in a box. So on a daily, you don't get overwhelmed of all the tasks that you have to do. And loves a good planner tool. So really important, absolutely, Kushla. Like, you know, for me, if I was looking at my goal in 2027, there's so many things I need to do in order to get there, but that's irrelevant, you know. And again, that's why I say be robotic in some of these things. You don't have to be like me, right? But that's why I like to do it, is because I know if I implement each day based on the plan, I'm going to get the goal. How I feel about it is irrelevant. So I take emotion out of it because I know the emotion is going to disrupt my goal if I allow it, right? So it's not about how I feel. It's about just doing the bloody work.
And that's really interesting, Chris, because I think I'd be interested to know if it's a man thing as well. If the more you can simplify and the more you can strip emotion away from something, 90% of the time you're better off. I say to people, save the emotion for the win, the outcome, the good stuff. But failing that, having that predictability and just knowing, as you said, if I do this, I will end up there. I just need to do it. I just need, and following the plan, it's a man thing.
Probably.
But you know, we laugh, but I used to say when a man does something, when they take up a sport or take up something, they usually go 100% in. I don't know. I'd love to hear the girls' thoughts around that.
I mean, I think Amber's emotional about everything, but it also can be a strength when utilized in the right way, because passion is very important to have as well. So there's an argument for both, and there's not one way which is the right way or, you know, the wrong way. It really does come down to individuals, what works for that person. I think the biggest thing for me is not letting either external forces or thoughts disrupt what you're looking to achieve. And that's where emotion can get a little bit confusing. It's still good to have. You still need emotion and passion. That's really important, right? But when it's not serving you and it's taking you away and further from your goal and it's all negative, that's not helpful anymore. So that's when we need to change that focus and perspective to be, instead of negative, more of a positive. What can I take from this that's good, right?
Yeah.
I'm still training through abs. Cry in your bicep curls. Lubricate your elbows.
And you've kind of brought up something that I got scribbled down here on my notes, which is ask better questions. And you know, how is this serving me? If this passion and this emotion is serving me and driving me towards my goal, great. If it's not, maybe it's time to have a break, do something that calms me down a bit, and then get back into it.
Yeah. Also, not making big decisions in high emotional states. It's never a good idea to do this. You'll more than likely make a poor decision.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, not all the time. I'm not saying all the time, but because I know Amber will hold me over hot coals for that. But it can happen that you make poor decisions in high emotional states.
And the other thing, going back to what's important to you and your values, be making connections between the decisions that you're making. It's important to you. I think, you know, bodybuilders and anybody who is into fitness and has to think about their nutrition, has to think about 24-hour self-care as opposed to the majority of people, we have to be able to be aware that our decisions are based on not how we feel right now.
Yeah.
Which goes back to, you know, you're waking up tired, fed up, you don't want to train. Your decision to go to the gym anyway is based on that big picture of I'm somebody who succeeds, who follows through, who commits because I want to be a top athlete.
Yeah.
And that again comes back into that the price I'm willing to pay is I'm willing to be tired sometimes. I'm willing to be hungry sometimes. I'm willing to sacrifice dinners out.
Yep.
Actually be aware of that price that you're paying.
Again, making the goal more important than the now. Can't really stress that enough, guys. All right, so please keep asking questions. It's really good that you guys are. Keep doing that. We'll move on to topic number 4, which is reverse dieting and what actually happens. So I guess I'll lead off, and then we can also, we've got what techniques can I use to regulate your nervous system when extreme hunger and low calories trigger irritability and grumpiness? My husband will want to listen to this answer. Good question. I'll have my perspective, and Kate will have her perspective on this as well. A couple of things that you can do in bodybuilding is, one, own it. It is your decision, not everyone else's fault that we're tired and grumpy. Now, easier said than done, okay? So I know for myself that I can get quite irritable, so can Amber, so can everyone, when we are low calories, highly stressed, lots of cardio, everything on our plate, etc. Okay, so it's normal to have some form of irritability. Hormonally, your hormones do change as well. So things like dopamine decreases, cortisol increases, your hunger levels increase, your satiety levels decrease. So hormonally, it's kind of working against you as well to gear you up to be more grumpy, more irritable, lack of sleep, etc. So it's a tricky situation to be in. But we need to own our decisions and own the consequences of our decisions. Every decision we make has a consequence. But in terms of how we can navigate it, we can understand what triggers us as best we can and try and remove ourselves from that trigger. So if we're getting irritated by someone eating or something like that, just walk away, get out of the room. Like I have this issue myself. I'm highly sensitive to noises and things like that. Again, I think it's linked to autism as well. But I literally can't deal with some noises. So I just have to get away because I'm irrational. And it's not fair on everyone else around me that I have this issue, right? So it's my issue. And it's something that I really struggle to keep under wraps. So we need to own it. We need to walk away from the triggers that are doing it as well. Understanding that you're going to be tired and grumpy, and it's part and parcel of this journey. Eliciting support from your loved ones, telling them, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. This is my goal. This is some of the things that are going to happen to me. I'm going to probably be a little irritable. I'm sorry. I will do my best to not be. Please tell me when I'm being a dick. Okay, ask them to do that, and within reason. Don't just throw it out every single day. But also asking for some empathy as well, sensory awareness. And stuff like that. Yeah. What about your perspective, Kate?
Well, I keep it simple, and I think what you just said, about removing yourself, is absolutely nailing it. If you know what your triggers are, and if you've thought about it in advance, again, what Chris said, talk about it with your partner. If you can inject any humor in there, I have talked to couples about that. Anywhere that you can have a symbol, a word, anything that just lightens the situation. You do have to be aware that some people find humor equally frustrating at times if they're really hungry. Set yourself up for success. Make it easy to do the right thing, harder to do the thing that you're trying to avoid. We don't do that enough. So putting yourself, the mother-in-law. Well, funny you should say that. Yeah, maybe you need to think about that. Can I be exposed to her?
So that's a big thing, actually, family or friends that you can't really get away from, right? So what I encourage people to do is silo them. There's certain topics and things that you don't broach with them anymore. because of their behavior and the way they react. It's like, I'm not talking to you about nutrition anymore, because every time I do, it ends up in disaster or a fight. So you don't have to tell them that, but you can, I mean, I would probably say it to people if you can, in a nice way, but you can also, do it without telling them and say, inside of your head, I'm not going to ask for support. I'm not going to get any sort of engagement from this person in these areas. So I'm just not going to, I'm not going to take on their opinion at all, because it's your choice to take that opinion on board. All right, it's just their opinion, doesn't matter. But two, limit the exposure and how much credence you give them in these certain topics or things that cause the triggers for you, if you can.
And it does take planning. And again, people will often argue, well, I can't do this or I can't do that, which then I sort of weave it back to, this is part of the price that you might have to pay in order to get the result that you want.
Yeah.
And I think, we have to call ourselves out, because as much as we like to think we can have everything, there is always a trade-off. There is always a cost.
It's always a consequence, no matter what you do.
Yeah. And, actually stating those costs is part of this sort of journey. Because going back to what I said at the beginning, so few people are truly successful. And the ones that are, they're paying a price. And we often don't see it. We just see the glory up on stage, or the glory, the win, and we don't see the cost.
Yeah, no matter what your trigger is, I think Amber said loud noises, TV. I know that irritates her with the kids playing cartoons all the time, and it's irritating, of course. So she removes herself. Puts headphones on like that, and it's a way of overcoming things. Reverse dieting.
And I think it's accepting it, Chris, that this is, as you said, this is normal. Yeah. We're doing an abnormal thing, and this is a normal response to deprivation and hard work, basically.
Bodybuilding is extreme, and it takes extreme things to get the results. So you need to understand that when you do extreme things, there can be extreme reactions and consequences as well. So it's understanding these things, learning. I think the cool thing with bodybuilding as well is that you learn so much about yourself, and it only helps you set you up for the future with everything you do in life, like career, relationships, etc. Because nothing's going to test you as much as what this will. And that's a cool thing. Like, to choose to do something every single day that is testing you is, again, a privilege. So utilize it for what it is. It's a teachable moment. It's an opportunity to learn and grow, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. Reverse dieting. What is actually happening? So metabolically, when we diet, our metabolism will try to match the calorie intake that we are taking on board as best it can. Now, that's not to say if you stop eating for a year, you're going to stop losing weight because your metabolism has adjusted. No, you will definitely starve, okay? But what it will do is it'll try and match the metabolism that you're putting in, will try and match the calorie intake that you're putting in as much as it possibly can. And it does that in certain ways. So one, it subconsciously slows you down. So it makes you move less, fidget less, you're less active, even subconsciously. You won't even notice it, but maybe you might scratch your face more. And then when in a hard diet, you scratch your face less. Those little things add up to a lot. In fact, 20% of the calories you burn every single day is from general activity, brushing your teeth, vacuuming the floor, making your kids lunch. All of those things add up, and that's the second highest port of calorie burn every single day. The second thing it does is it metabolically adapts. It's called adaptive thermogenesis. That means your calories, your intake, starts to slow down. Okay, so it's trying to match the calories that you're putting in, because your body realizes that you're losing weight, and it doesn't actually want you to do that. So it thinks, oh no, we are starving. If we keep going this way, we're going to die. Okay, so it will try to metabolically adapt. From there, what also happens if we go back to eating our food after our calorie deficit, right? So we go, okay, I used to eat 2,000 calories a day. That was my maintenance. One, you're lighter, so you don't eat as much food anymore as what you did when you were 5, 10, 15 kilos heavier. 2, your metabolism is slow, and if you go back to eating as much food as you used to, you will suppress your metabolism and keep it suppressed. Okay, there's really good data and graphs on this and research. So people who, and they do like Weight Watchers, Army, all this sort of research, right? When our metabolism goes down, if we start eating calories quite quickly, our metabolism flatlines. However, with a reverse diet, what is geared for it, this is my fancy graph fingers, is what when we reverse diet slowly and increase calories in a controlled way, our metabolism has the ability to increase along with it, right? Now, your metabolism, when done well, will only increase by approximately 70 to 150 calories on average a week. So it's not a lot, right? But when we times 100 by 8 to 10 weeks, that's 800 to 1,000 calories. So it's not forever. A reverse diet isn't forever. It is crucial, though, to your success, okay? That's metabolically, that's physiology. In terms of emotionally and mentally, I'll pass you over to Kate. I know you're on the deep, mate. What is your take on this?
Oh gosh, yeah, food. Me and food. Interesting history. I totally relate to that. You know, the challenge of having simply.
Mama, I'll be talking. Mama?
We've got some. Can we mute somebody? Yeah, it is challenging to accept that in order to grow, you're going to have to increase your intake. Can we mute somebody, Chris?
I just muted it.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I struggle with other people talking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's distraction.
In terms of setting yourself up for success, again, going back to that phases. This is a phase. I can see the end in sight. I'm doing this. What did you say it was for, roughly? How long?
It depends on the individual, right?
Yeah.
It really does depend on how fast that metabolism will adapt, and that will be gauged by their check-in responses and how their bodies and how they're feeling, right?
And I think again, you know, here's the coach role, the support, the encouragement. This is what you do. It's not something that is, you know, oh, I choose to do it. This is how you're going to grow and improve. Yeah. And hearing that from a professional, from somebody who knows what they're talking about, I think is really important. But you know, it's mind games, isn't it? And again, it takes us back to, why am I doing this? I'm following instructions. Tapping into what you said, Chris, about if I do this, I know I'm going to get X, Y, Z. And I don't think we spend enough time actually being conscious of following instructions, listening to advice, and going, these people know what they're talking about. I am paying the coach for this. I'm going to listen. I'm going to take it on board, because if I do, I cannot fail.
It's also a hard time coming out of a prep. You've dieted for so long, you've restricted your calories, your social life, your treats that you normally have, and then now I'm telling you, you still can't have them, right?
Yeah.
What an asshole I am. But I'm doing it for a reason, and I'm doing it for your health, okay? Yeah. And it's only temporary. Everything is always only temporary. Yeah. The other thing I think people really struggle with is, you know, with cravings and navigating them. Some of the things that come up with cravings is like, obviously you want something, and then the fact that you can't have it is often a thing, right? Because we don't like getting told no, and I think there's a whole behavior associated with that, right? So when you tell someone no, they're more likely to do it, especially when they have the opportunity to, right?
Yeah.
But your body changes, and that can be quite hard to deal with. You will more than likely hold some water weight from inflammation and the stress that you've put yourself through. So you will look a little bit puffier and a little bit softer, and you've been so geared to aesthetics and looking a certain way and weighing a certain amount that now we are going the opposite way, and probably faster than what you would like as well, whether you like it or not. So being able to navigate that is really, really important. And I think having a coach to talk to about it and people in your community to talk to about it, because everyone's going through it, right? And everyone's been through it that has done this before. So yes, it's hard, but you can get through it. Also, the fact that you're probably going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Every mistake we make is an opportunity to learn and grow from it. So do the best you can to learn from the mistakes, and then just correct your path and refocus back on what it is you need to do. So when do these treats come back? Cravings are a beach, even more in Shark Week. So yes, absolutely, cravings are going to change and be more intense during your period. That is a hormonal thing, and actually, in fact, when women have their periods, they do increase their metabolism over that period of time by approximately, depending on the person, 50 to 100 calories. But you feel like you could probably eat 3 blocks of chocolate. I'm sorry, your metabolism hasn't increased by that amount, okay? So as Amber said, in this, chromium is a supplement you can take, which is great for cravings and reducing sugar intake. Eating enough protein. I actually get people out of a prep, we did this with Amber as well, after a comp, is that she's like, what should I eat? I said, just eat all the protein you can possibly eat. Overeat on protein. It's pretty hard to do damage metabolically and put on heaps of weight by eating too much chicken breast. You're probably not going to do it, right? Having lower calorie options, like for me, I love rock melon. Man, I'll buy 4 or 5 packs of the pre-cut rock melon and eat all of them. But it curbs my cravings as well, and I don't really want lots of lollies and cookies and all that kind of stuff afterwards. And if you guys knew me 20 years ago, Amber, you can tell them, what was my diet like? It was literally lollies, lollies and chicken. Literally, that's what I ate, right? So I was a huge lolly fan and pretty much addicted to
Only lollies, like
Only.
lollies for breakfast. And I had to try and get him to start having smoothies.
which
Yeah.
I
Well,
typically-
look.
Yeah. So if I can do it, you can do it.
Yep.
I was the definition of an addicted lolly eater. Not that you can get addicted to lollies, right? But I'm just using that as a euphemism.
You can.
Yeah, well, not chemically, you can't. Yeah. Lollies and chicken, a lot yum. It is yum. It actually really is yum. But not that's going to be. Sorry, it's not going to be in your plans. Unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I am. But chromium is a good supplement today. That will help sugar cravings. It helps curb blood sugar levels as well. So if you do have cravings, use that. I've actually did a blog on my website with how to curb sugar, our website, how to curb sugar cravings as well. So check that out in our blogs. Self-doubt. That's a really big topic. And I know we're probably going to run over time, but I expected that anyway. So if you're all good, Kate, to run a little bit longer, I am. I would love to get into a bit more of this talk around self-doubt, especially in high performers, because that's huge. So self-doubt, how do we help navigate that, comparison culture, insecurities, etc.?
Again, I would say it's how you frame it. Self-doubt is quite normal. It's like anxiety. We need a little bit. It keeps us on edge. It keeps us aware that, yes, we are competing. Yes, it is about being the best that we can be. But the definition of a problem behavior is when it starts interfering with your ability to lead a daily life, right? So if your self-doubt is actually stopping you from advancing and stopping you from training because it's all consuming, then we need to be thinking, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
But to say that self-doubt in and of itself is something that we want to get rid of, I don't agree with that. I think it's healthy to have some little niggles around it because it gives us that edge. It keeps us on form. It just keeps us progressing. But as I said, it's unhealthy when it starts interfering with the joy that you get from competing. If you're losing sight of why you wanted to do it because you're so full of self-doubt, then we need to be going, where is this coming from? Because if you go back to what you said, again, ticking the boxes, doing the behaviors, you can then go, well, there is no reason for this self-doubt. I've got a coach. I'm following my nutrition plan. I'm getting my sleep. I'm doing my posing routine. I'm training. And it sounds really simplistic, but I would always start there. And you need to call yourself out. Where is this coming from? Is this something that is, I'm just talking about it because it's become a habit? For me, it was a habit. It was an avoidance strategy. You'd get in quick. You'd set the scene so nobody had any great expectations of you. And then you'd overperform.
Yeah.
So call yourself out. How is this serving me? Is it actually giving me something? And is there a good reason for this self-doubt? Because if there is, then I can fix it. I can speak to my coach about maybe shifting my nutrition. Maybe I'm not adhering to it.
Mm.
But I would keep it as simple as possible. Don't get caught up in trying to eradicate it or see it as something that is only I've got this problem because I'm doubting my ability.
We all have self-doubt, and we all probably have the same sort of self-doubt that everyone experiences to some degree. Comparison as well, we always compare ourselves to others, but the problem with comparison is that you never ever compare yourself to those who you perceive as beneath you or below you in terms of the goals you're looking to achieve. You only ever compare yourself to where you want to be and where you're not yet. So you're always going to be disappointed to some degree with comparison, right? Unless you can utilize like someone's profile and as inspiring and motivating, and it doesn't serve you negatively, then I would, like Emma does this a lot. She limits her social media time when she's in prep so she doesn't get brought into that self-comparison, right? Because it's not helping, it's not serving anything. Yeah.
And we know that those people have got their own issues going on in their life.
Absolutely, everyone does.
And I think there's the idea of comparison, it's corny, but it's so true, is compare to yourself. Where was I 6 months ago? Where was I 3 years ago? That's the only time that I would be encouraging comparison, because we are always an individual. We are always going to be responding and gaining or losing differently to those around us because we see things differently. The only time it's useful, I think, again, is exactly what you said, is if you can leverage off it. If flip, I'm going to be as good as her. If that drives you, use it. But if it takes you into that cycle of self-doubt and spiraling into I'm not good enough, and that sort of language starts popping up, no.
And I think it's also good to compare to, like you said, Kate, to yourself where you were 6 months, 12 months ago. For example, I had someone recently I was talking to that said, they've been not very good on their nutrition over Christmas. So I said to them, well, what would you have done 12 months ago before we started working together, right? They said, well, I would have been a lot worse. I would have probably put on 10 kilos and, not just blown out completely and not gone back on track at all. And it would have been March and I would have been 15 kilos up. I said, well, you haven't done that, have you? You might have put on 2 kilos. Hey, sure, we can fix that though, right? So you've already made a significant amount of progression from just last year. That's huge. So compare yourself to realistic comparisons rather than going, well, I'm not perfect. Look, no one's perfect. When you start setting expectations on yourself about perfection, you are setting yourself up to fail, guaranteed. Like, you're not perfect, you never will be. So why are you setting this goal of perfection that's unachievable, right? It's setting yourself up for a really rocky time and experience.
And I definitely have to call myself out a lot. And I think, again, if you've got a coach who a little bit of tough love, I think we do need that, because what is very, very common, and again, I'm an expert at this, is we have a story.
Mm.
And we just fall into the pattern of repeating that story as to why we are who we are. And sometimes we need to bury that story. And, the comparison and, the troubles that we've had in the past, they are in the past.
Yeah.
And if we want to be a high performer, the price we're going to pay is to rewrite that story.
Absolutely.
And
Draw that line in the sand, move forward in a positive
Mm.
way. When your past doesn't define you, right? So what's happened to you in the past, it doesn't. I think this is a big thing. I think a lot of the time with trauma, I put my hand up for this one. So I carried my past trauma with me for many, many years until I had an epiphany one day where I realized what I was doing. And I said to myself, I'm not going to let my past define my future anymore. But I was choosing to do that because that person wasn't even in my life anymore, right? But I still carrying that trauma, that baggage. So you have to do the same thing with your food, with your mindset, with your goals. You draw that line in the sand. What can I learn from it? Okay, I'll take that learning, but I'm not going to carry any of the negativity through with me anymore.
It's hugely powerful, that.
Yeah, you can choose it, right? It's hard, and I think that people get confused with trauma in particular, where something is really horrible that is done to them, and you say, hey, look, you need to draw the line in the sand and move forward. They think, oh, that means I'm forgiving them. No, that's not the case. It's allowing yourself to move forward while not allowing that person to negatively affect your life anymore, right? Because you're still giving them power, and you're your own person now. Yeah.
Which comes back to something that also I wrote down under this self-doubt, which is having a feeling of control and being fully aware that you control so much more in your life than we give credit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, it's that mindset, it's the story that it's, everybody else's fault, that you are who you are. And if you have that view of yourself, you are not going to be a high performer, because it's always going to be somebody else's reason why you're not there.
Yeah.
And you talked about owning it, and I love that expression. It is so true. It can be threatening for some people, but I choose to see it as liberating, because it means if I'm going to own it, I can do something about it. If it's somebody else's fault, I can't change them.
Yeah, exactly. So there's quite a few things to still go through, but we'll have to maybe do another session, I think, at another time. What I would like to do is open up the floor to everyone else and allow you guys to ask questions, contribute, or even just talk about your own experiences, because believe it or not, you've all got something that you've gone through and learned from that others will learn from as well. So does anyone else want to contribute or ask questions or anything like that? This is when everyone goes silent. It's always the way. So while you guys are thinking thoroughly about what it is you want to say, let me just quickly breeze over something else that was asked. Should women train with their cycle? You are not fragile. You are fucking strong people. You give birth, for God's sakes. You are very, very powerful and strong. You can push through pretty much most things, even like more so than men. Okay.
But on a really heavy flow day, though,
So this is where it gets to the individual aspects. Okay, you need to treat you as an individual. Like in particular, if you have PCOS, endometriosis, that's going to really impact you quite severely. Even if you just have a really hard period or a really painful period, you play it by ear. If you're not feeling up to it, don't train. Okay, you're not going to lose anything by taking an extra rest day, especially over that time. But if you feel good,
really light.
Yeah, go really light. Do a walk, whatever. Just move your body if that's what you want to do. But if you feel good, go for it. Go nuts, right? Some women have even better performances over their period. Okay, so it's really, really individual specific with that. But hormonally, there's no reason why you can't train. You're not going to. It's nothing stopping you other than pain and discomfort and your energy levels, really. Okay, so you're completely safe, is I guess the point that I'm trying to make. Right, so you've had some time now, guys. Come on, throw them at us. Always answers the question.
Well, I know something that people could share is maybe a cost, maybe something that they are willing pay the price they're willing to pay to get the result they want. Actually naming it, actually thinking about it. Maybe it's time, maybe it's, I don't know.
Well, I think you need to, if you're doing bodybuilding, you need to be able to pay every cost, right? Time, energy, financially, mentally.
Financially.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be positive, Chris. Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, look, bodybuilding is a costly sport in all aspects of life, financially as well, right?
Mm.
Again, we come back to your values, your goals, making your goal more important than you now, being emotionally connected, etc., etc., etc. So it should come down to, it's irrelevant what the cost is to a point, not including health and relationships, don't freaking destroy your life. But if you're feeling uncomfortable, deal with it. If you're feeling tired, deal with it. If you're having cravings, deal with it in the best way you can, because you are choosing to do something that is freaking hard and extreme, which is a huge privilege and opportunity for you to do. So grab it with two hands, because not many people have that opportunity to do it. And the consequence of that is there's some things that you're going to have to navigate, right? But they're pretty cool things to be able to navigate. Really, when you reframe your perspective and reframe your mind, the fact that you can choose to do all these things and choose to suffer, what a freaking privilege you have.
And I think something else that we don't draw attention to is it the 1 or 2%? It's a bit like running a marathon,
Yeah.
And again, I would keep saying there is a reason why there are only 2% of people choose to do it, because it's hard. And I think somewhere there was a post, you just said, Chris, about deal with it. But also there was that if things start to outweigh the gains, maybe now is not the right time for you to be prepping for a comp. Maybe this is about you building and growing into this.
Well, Amber made a really good real post this morning, I believe, where she talked about exactly that. Hey, your goal is really good, but if your life isn't geared to have the ability to even implement these plans, again, you're probably setting yourself up for a pretty rough time of it. So things do have to be able to be achievable for you at the same time. If you're, doing really long hours at work and you're not able to stick to the food and eat your meals, etc., and we, as a coach, need to say, hey, you need to do more cardio to elicit the calorie deficit now, and you are already doing way too much and you've got no time. Well, realistically, what are we supposed to do? You can either sacrifice more sleep or not do it. And you're probably going to choose to not do the cardio, which is then going to flow on to the fact that you're not going to get the result.
And something that I jotted down in relation to the reverse dieting is smaller sooner, larger later, the delayed gratification, and appreciating that bodybuilding is completely that in action. And so many people, most people, I would hazard a guess 90% of the population live based on how they feel right now. I feel crap, I'm going to have a Coke. I feel crap, I'm going to eat whatever. We are training ourselves. I feel crap, but I know that I've got this goal that's in 6 months. In Chris's case, it's 18 months or whatever. And I'm going to delay the gratification because I want that goal so badly. And all of this starts to tie in because it's linked into your values, it's linked into your why. And the more connections that you can make, the less fragmented your existence becomes.
Absolutely. But, you know, like you say, well, my goal is a long time away, but every single day, I've got something to achieve.
Yep.
Every day is a goal. You know, I need to do my training today. Every session, every rep I do is like, that's getting me closer to the goal. And I constantly feel like I don't have enough time, even though it's 18 months. You've got to be urgent with the things you want to achieve, even if it's 5 years away.
Yep. Yeah, and ticking the boxes.
In the box.
That is, if you can get a buzz out of box ticking,
Yeah.
do it. Yeah, yeah.
How do you push through injury? Good question, Chelsea. So, in general, you probably shouldn't push through most injuries within reason, unless it's hard to say, you know, there's no line in the sand, there's no black and white here. It's really, really individual specific and depending on what the injury is. But if I could say, like, for an example, if you have tendonitis in a shoulder or an elbow, please don't push through that. Okay, stop straight away and tell your coach ASAP, because that's one of those injuries that will progressively get worse and worse at the more you do. If you have tweaked your ankle, torn a rotator cuff, shoulder injury, right, whatever it is, tell your coach ASAP. Okay, that's the first thing you need to do. Then, if there's a difference between pushing through pain for rehab and pushing through pain because it hurts. Okay, so, you know, just to do the training session. When it comes to rehabilitation, for an example, when I had shoulder surgery, there was an aspect of pain when I was starting my rehab, but that's okay, right? It's okay to have tolerable pain and discomfort in some rehabilitation exercises and things like that. But if I went and did like a bench press and having those sharp, stabby pains, that's not good, right? We want to be able to sort of understand what pains are good and what pains are okay to push, you know, through, and what pains we should stop straight away at. So that's really important. And sometimes that's, you know, your coach is going to help you with that. But in general, you probably shouldn't push through a lot of pain, yeah, especially if you just do an injury. Okay, we'd rather you have a couple of days rest, get some recovery going, talk to your coach, and for us to understand exactly what is going on, so we can actually give you a clear and concise answer. Okay, but I can't say to you without more context, do this or do that. Hope that makes sense. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, cool, Chelsea. Thanks, Chelsea. Yeah. Good question, though. All right, team. So we'll wrap it up there. I think we've still got probably about 8 or 9 topics on the agenda to go through. So that's cool. We'll have to make another time, and I think hopefully you guys got a lot out of this as well. If you have any more questions, things that you want to go over, please post it in the group, in the event, or the original post that we had, or just message us. But thanks so much, Kate. Really appreciate your time. And if you guys want to get in touch with Kate to help with behavioral, mental things, I would highly recommend Kate. She is amazing, as you probably already picked up. But yeah, really appreciate your time tonight, Kate. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me. Been great to chat with you guys.
Yes. Well done, team. You stayed on board for all of our waffle. All right. Have a good night, team. Good weekend. Be safe. Train hard.
See ya.
Get it.